My gosh, what is it about Paris? You probably heard by now that a guy was arrested at Disneyland Paris. He was packing 2 guns and a Koran. This only days after we got word of a man captured in Milwaukee who had intended to kill a lot of people there in a Paris-like attack of his own. With us right now to remind us, as if we needed reminding, that terror is everywhere and we have to be pretty vigilant about it. So much to talk to him about, the former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. Secretary, good to have you.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you, Neil.
What do you make of the Paris development again, and the focus, it would seem to be still on Paris, a city that's had more than its share of targeting?
Well, I think it's a one more sign of the times. We're living in a period where there are a large number of people in the world who are radical Islamists who are determined to kill people, innocent men, women, and children. And I think we'll be living with this for some period of time.
You know, I've been raising this with generals, both retired and present, Secretary, about whether we're too late to try to attack ISIS or whatever combined entity is forming in the Middle East, because the cells are everywhere here, whether they be in Milwaukee, even with those who are adherents and buy on to the warped mentality, or certainly in Paris and all these other cities. Around the world, they're entrenched. How do you fight that?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to identify it and label it as to what it is. And it's a strain within that faith that's radical and determined to impose its will on others and to actually to attack the concept of the nation state that has been a source of reasonable stability in the world throughout certainly my lifetime and before. I think that we have to recognize what it is. We have to recognize that it's not going to be won simply with bombs and bullets. It's going to take people active in that faith who are against that strain within their faith, actively pursuing their people to persuade them that it's a bad thing to do. And instead of training people to go out and kill people, we need to train them to be productive citizens in the world.
Well, that isn't happening right now, and the president refuses to use some of the terms I think that you were advocating. And it happens at a time right now where we're just more inclined to want to sit pat and try whatever we're doing and run out the clock, and then a new president comes in. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, the reality is that a terrorist can attack at any time of the day or night, in any place, using any technique. And it's physically impossible to defend everywhere, at every moment of the day or night, against every conceivable technique. Therefore, there's an enormous advantage by the attacker and a very difficult task for the defender. Therefore, what we have to do is find ways to slow down their recruiting and to squeeze off their financing. And that is going to take a large coalition and a lot of leadership, and it'll take something more than the leadership vacuum that's been created in the world, because that vacuum is being filled with people who don't have our values and don't have our interests.
If I could switch gears here, Secretary, because I heard about this and I immediately told my staff, we got to book him. Now, you heard about Facebook. And I'm thinking you're maybe our modern Mark Zuckerberg here, because you've gone into...
Oh, come on!
You've gone into the high-tech app business. You have, I think, the first or second most downloaded app right now. It's a solitaire game, but it has to do with Winston Churchill. Explain.
Well, when I was ambassador to NATO in 1973, I became friendly with a very senior Belgian diplomat. And that individual had learned this game from Winston Churchill during World War II, when the Belgian government was in exile out of Belgium because the Nazis took over. And they were there, and he became friendly with Churchill. And Churchill taught him the game. He taught me the game. And it's such a fascinating game. It's complicated. It's challenging. It requires strategy. You have to look 2 or 3 steps ahead. And it's a lot of fun to play, and I've just been amazed at the number of people who've downloaded it.
Why is it now an app? How is it an app, and how did you even know what the heck an app was?
Well, I had to ask younger people who know more about that kind of thing. But you had to use miniature cards, because you use 10 stacks. And back in my day, you didn't have iPads or computers or anything like that. In fact, when I was young, we didn't even have television. But
well, don't start doing that thing and say, you know, I walked to school 6 miles both ways.
No, listen, it's the truth. There was no such thing
well,
when I
now
was
you're a
growing
big
up.
internet guy, so now when's the first billion coming?
Oh, come on.
All right.
I am giving every cent of profits that I make to military charities to support of the troops and their families, and the Churchill Foundation is giving their money to the legacy of Winston Churchill.
Very good. I'll be watching.
I hope everyone downloads it.
All right. Well, now I know. Donald Rumsfeld, there's an app for him, or that.